Alfred Russel Wallace. He was born in England on January 8, 1823. He died November 7, 1913 in Broadstone, England. Wallace died peacefully in his sleep when he was 90 years old and was buried beside his wife. He started school in 1828 at Hales Grammar School, but was forced to leave in March 1837 because his family had suffered from a phase of poverty. His interest in natural science began when he wanted to identify the plants he saw in the countryside, and so he moved to Neath. 1843, Alfred was hired as a master in the collegiate school in Leicester to teach drafting, surveying, English, and arithmetic. He was able to study and research several important natural history in the school library. He then met an amateur naturalist, Henry Walter Bates, who inspired him and got him passionate about collecting and studying beetles. He had a lot of enthusiasm and was always passionate towards what he was doing. He was well known for his independent thinking. He moved to his old town Neath in 1845 and read numerous books such as Vestiges of the Natural History of Creation and A Voyage Up the River Amazon, which inspired him to convince the naturalist Henry Bates to travel with him to Brazil to collect data on specimens of insects, birds, and other animals. He was 25 when him and Henry Bates set off on the trip on April 26, 1848. He would then either save the data for private collection or sell it to collectors and museums in Europe. His goal was to seek evidence for evolution and to attempt to discover its mechanism. Henry Bates and Alfred had worked as a team before they had a disagreement which caused them to split up to collect data in different areas. He went to Amazon and Rio Negro and had drafted a map of the river using the skills he had learned as a land surveyor. Years later, the map was published by the Royal Geographical Society in London, and it became the standard map of the region for many years. In 1852, Alfred decided to return to Britain due to his poor health. However, the ship was caught on fire and sank, so he lost all his notes and all the specimens he had collected during the 2 previous years. In 1854, he left Britain and visited Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, and East Timor, an important island in the archipelago, and collected more than 5,000 new species to science. His best-known zoological discoveries are Wallace golden bird-winged butterfly and Wallace standard winged bird of paradise, both from Bacon Island. The book he later wrote describing his work and experiences were The Malay Archipelago is the most celebrated of all travel writing on this region and ranks with a few other books as one of the best scientific travel books of the 19th century. In 1855, Alfred wrote what was probably the most important paper on evolution prior to the discovery of natural selection, Sarawak's Law. But Darwin had also discovered the natural selection theory, and his theory was published first. Even though Darwin is widely recognized as being the only creator of natural selection, the co-discoverer was in fact Alfred Wallace as well, but he does not gain much attention from it.
Wallace wrote a book in 1880 called Island Life, which was his most successful book. After 1880, his attention was increasingly spread amongst wider areas such as the land nationalization, anti-vaccination campaign, urban poverty, socialization, private insane, asylums, militarism, and life on other planets. From 1886 to 1887, Alfred traveled on a lecture tour across the United States of America. He was hailed as a great innovator. The modern creationist movement had not yet arisen. His lectures outlined the theory of evolution by natural selection and the evidence that supported it. These lectures helped him form the basis of one of his most important books, Darwinism, in 1989. His book, Man's Place in the Universe, in 1903, argued against beings existing on any other planet in the solar system, particularly given recent speculation about Mars, or indeed anywhere else in the universe but Earth. In 1905, he published his lengthy 2-volume autobiography called My Life. It remains the principal biographical source on Wallace. A condensed edition appeared in 1908. The World of Life, 1910, was his final word on spiritualism and his view that humanity was placed on Earth for a reason. His last two books were Social Environment and Moral Process and The Revolt of Democracy, which appeared in 1913. Land monopoly and the competitive system of the industry were the two fundamental causes of poverty and starvation in a land of superfluous wealth. Here again was Wallace's conviction that removing social obstacles will allow the inherent progress of natural laws to ensue. The year 2013 was therefore the centenary of Wallace's death and saw many events and publications around the world to commemorate his life and work. Wallace still remains as a colorful, confusing, and controversial figure in the history of science, but above everything, he still remains as an inspiration for people with ordinary backgrounds who don't have the advantages of wealth connections and make them believe that they could achieve extraordinary things through hard work, dedication, enthusiasm, and independent thinking, just like he did. Although one fault in Alfred's theory is that he stated that there was no possibility of life on other planets, but he did not have any valid evidence to back up this point. And according to new research, there is evidence of extraterrestrial life on planets aside from Earth. Another fault is that in Alfred's paper, Sarwak Law, he wrote every species has come into existence coincident both in space and time with closely allied species. But recent scientific evidence proves that it was no coincidence that species have come into existence with other species, due to the similarities in DNA sequences and other characteristics. Alfred Wallace was one of the most important figures in the 19th century due to his numerous amounts of findings in scientific and cultural studies, and is definitely inspiring to all.